So today I thought I'd be telling you all about, well, Hamilton's Hamartia. Now, before you yell at me and say, oh my god, Hamartia is just a literary term, well, it also applies. So call that uh, Hamilton's Icarus complex, I guess. But it's the same thing. And also, it's alliteration, so double literary reference. It looks better than just Hamilton's fatal flaw. I mean, Hamilton's Hamartia, HH. Anyway, so that's why I'd say it's the Hamartia. But anyway, what is Hamartia? Because I've said it a few times already and I've not really defined it. And maybe you don't know what it is. It's a fatal flaw. It's one trait in a character, like I said, it's a literary term, that leads to said character's downfall. For example, in Macbeth, in Shakespeare's Macbeth, it is Macbeth's own ambition. And that ties in perfectly with the topic of today's video because Hamilton's Hamartia, Hamilton's fatal flaw, the thing that led to Hamilton's downfall was his ambition. I can take this one step further. It's literally the same thing with Icarus. It's the same concept, the same moral of the story, if you will. I made a video on Icarus in history, and I've made several videos on Hamilton himself, but I just thought I'd make a video on his fatal flaw rather than just different events. So, Hamilton. I'm not going to detail his biography because I think I've done it already. And if I haven't, I've definitely talked about him before. But what you really need to know is that he came from nothing. He came from this island of St. Kitts and Nevis, from St. Croix, and he was orphaned at a orphaned. His father left, his mother died, and he was left to live with his cousin who killed himself. And he was forced to live on an island and work with slave trade, and his life was absolutely terrible. He was nothing. And he literally wrote letters saying, and I quote, God, I wish there was a war, because he knew if there was a war, there was a chance that he would be able to go up the ranks and start as a private and then slowly hook himself up and maybe make a name for himself. And what you also need to know about Hamilton, if you don't already, is that he was an excellent writer. I've read some of his stuff, and apart from the fact that I understand like half of it, what I do understand is extremely well written. And the points he makes are really good points. Honestly, one of the best political writers that I've read. I haven't read all of them, obviously. I've read some, but so he was writing, he wrote letters, and around 1772, there was a hurricane. Well, not 1772, sorry. There was a hurricane that struck his island. Now, this left devastation all around, and Hamilton, he wrote about it and sent it to a newspaper. That is an oversimplification of events, but anyway. And this got published, and people felt bad for him. And so they passed around the bucket like collecting money, and they used that money to send him to the colonies, so he could get an education and then maybe come back. There, he started getting an education. Then the war broke out. And that was what he wanted. So he joined the Continental Army and became... Well, he wanted a leadership post. He wanted command. But he proved himself more useful in other areas. Like, instead of fighting, he proved to be an amazing writer. So much so that George Washington noticed and made Hamilton his aide-de-camp. Hamilton quit after a while. He met his wife, had children, blah blah. And then you have the end of the war. He was given command by the end. Yorktown. Anyway, you have Hamilton and the new republic. Washington offers Hamilton the role of Secretary of Treasury, which is amazing for him because not only is it a very high-ranking political post, but look at the people around him. They were all born there. He was an immigrant, so he was kind of at a disadvantage. But he still managed to make Secretary of Treasury, something which didn't really sit well with, Thomas Jefferson. Anyway, and yeah, he also became a lawyer, quite successful. And this is where it gets tough, because Hamilton thinks, I want more control over the banks. I'm not saying he wanted to be president. Maybe he would. Maybe he would have wanted to become president. I don't know. I think he would, but not overthrowing Washington, if you know what I mean. He wanted more control of the bank, so he started decentralizing it, and he established the Bank of New York, National Bank. He said he wanted to nationalize the debt. He wanted to do a whole bunch of stuff. This policy was huge, and those financial systems are like, some of them are still in place today, even 200 years after he died. But of course, these financial systems, they were amazing, but they came at a cost. Anyway, he made enemies along the way, mainly Thomas Jefferson. Also, their ideology. Hamilton is more of the belief that he worked hard for the Constitution to be that way, so he's going to stick to the Constitution. Jefferson, he was more liberal in that sense. He even was a very strong supporter of the French Revolution. Hamilton, on the other hand, was more, let's just step back, step aside, and if we need to intervene, but until then, no. And that even caused even more friction, because Hamilton, he wasn't about to let Jefferson get his way. He was ambitious. He wanted to be on top. So he kept on pushing Jefferson, so much so that Jefferson ended up quitting as Secretary of State. Hamilton would quit 2 years after that. But, and yeah, it's just his ambition kept on creating enemies throughout his way up. And this is where it ties into his main fatal flaw, which is ambition, but also lust. Lust, by the way, like L-U-S-T. Sexual desire. I've talked about the Reynolds affair before. I'm not going to detail it because I could be here all day detailing it. But all you need to know is that he was involved in this scam where this woman would have sex with him, and then her husband would try to extort him out of money, which he did, and he kept on trying to hush it. Problem is, Hamilton kept on paying James Reynolds, the husband, from the Treasury building. Like with his own money, but from the Treasury building. Now, people like Jefferson and Madison and Monroe, they disliked Hamilton because of all this progress he was making. And Hamilton's ambition had, like I said before, created so many enemies that they jumped at the opportunity to try and bring him down. They saw this and they saw what he was doing and thought, embezzling. He's embezzling government funds. Haha. That wasn't true. He was having sex with another woman, he was cheating on his wife, but he wasn't embezzling government funds. Now, the Reynolds affair eventually got out of Hamilton's control, and well, it got to James Monroe, and then he threatened Hamilton, but then things died down for a while. Until Hamilton's ambition got in the way again. Well, I'd say, at first it was ambition, by the end it was more hatred. So yeah, Hamilton's fatal flaws, Hamartia's ambition, lust, hatred. Which turns, they're really the Hamartias of a lot of people. Really common ones. Well, his ambition led him to constantly try and one-up Thomas Jefferson, or bring him down. Which he did, publishing some stuff criticizing him. And Jefferson thought, haha, it's like that. Boom, Mariah Reynolds letters. And those went down to the public. And is kind of almost destroyed his family. Let's hit this of his son, and of course, the death of his own political career. But his ambition didn't stop there. His political ambition was dead, of course, but he had further ambition. There was this guy called Aaron Burr who had been really with Hamilton every corner, not as a friend's way, it's more of an enemy's way. They had very similar backgrounds, and they both became lawyers together almost, and they had trials together, so they knew each other pretty well. But there wasn't that much love. For example, Burr really pushed Hamilton's father-in-law out of the Senate. Anyway, Hamilton's ambition called for him to stop Aaron Burr at every turn, so that Burr wasn't able to advance politically. He stopped him from becoming president, and he did some from becoming vice president. That was from Thomas Jefferson. And he also started from becoming governor of New York. And that was his last job. Hamilton's ambition, not only politically but also to try and stop Burr. And he even said that it was almost religious, the need he felt to try and stop Burr from advancing. Well, that really pissed Burr off, leading to the famous duel that led to Hamilton's death. His cockiness also kind of played a part, but anyway, it's his ambition that got him there. His political ambition, his social ambition, and his sexual ambition, I guess. He's a bit of a womanizer, a bit. He did have a stable marriage, but anyway. I'm gonna leave it there, because that's all I wanted to say. It's just ambition, lust, and hatred. That's three Hamartians, but the main one is ambition. Ambition is the most common fatal flaw. It's Icarus, it's flying too close to the sun. Oh, I can do more. When in fact, you should stop there. Hamilton had just kept his mouth shut, being happy with what he was. Or not had sex with this woman, he probably would have been fine and lived for quite a long time. And lived for longer. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it there. I hope you liked it. I hope you found it interesting, and yeah, thank you for watching. Bye.